Hey, I think it's high time I got back to work on my Opel. It needs a few maintenance things, and I have some upgrades in mind as well, so there might be a few Opel videos in the works. Today should be a quick, easy one.
Little did I know this wouldn't be quick or easy.
I just had to put on a new brake master cylinder because the old one was leaking, and I thought it was a good chance to try out a new method of bleeding the brakes without having to ask a friend for help.
The traditional two-person method involves one person inside the car to pump the brake pedal a few times to build pressure, while the second person opens each bleeder screw to let out a little bit of fluid and air at a time, then close the valve and redo the whole thing over and over until there's no more air. It's a bit time-consuming, so I'm hoping this new device makes it a lot easier.
Instead of pumping the pedal, all you need is a spare tire. Sounds pretty cool in theory. Let's see how it works. Here's the simple and genius device we're going to be trying today. It's called the Gunson Eezibleed. As you can see, it's basically a reservoir that you put the fluid into, and then it has an air chuck to hook up to your tire. And then out the other end, you have all these different adapter caps for the fluid reservoir, for your clutch or brake master cylinder. And as long as you get a good airtight seal, you can just use that to push the fluid all the way to the bleeder and do it by yourself. At least that's the theory. The one caveat is they don't want you to use any more than 20 psi, so it's going to be important to check the tire pressure and air it down if you need to, or air it up if it's empty like this one probably is.
It's similar in concept to the popular motive bleeder, which uses a hand-operated pump to build pressure. They also have a wider variety of adapters for different vehicles. They do cost a little bit more, but that might be the more professional driveway mechanic option. For me, I thought I would try this more compact system, even though it means I have to get out a spare tire and I have to own a tire inflator, which I do. While that's inflating, it's worth mentioning that I did bench bleed this new master cylinder before installing it. There's plenty of videos out there already on how to do this, but basically you just get this little kit of adapters and hoses to feed the fluid back into the reservoir, and you just pump it a bunch of times with a screwdriver to work all the air bubbles out of the cylinder. Finally, when it comes to messing around with brake lines, it's always a good idea to use a line wrench so you don't round off the fittings. And if you get brake fluid anywhere, make sure to clean it up with a bit of water because it is corrosive and will eat paint. At this point, I was ready to test out the new bleeder. All I had to do was pick out the right size adapter fitting for the master cylinder.
Oh crap. Now what?
And here's where the struggle begins. Apparently, my old master cylinder reservoir would have worked fine, but the new one has this weird twist-on cap that the kit doesn't have an adapter for. So my first brainwave to get around this was, why don't I just swap out the old reservoir for the new one? That seems like it should work. Oh. Oh, okay. I guess I've made way too many assumptions. Well, crap. That was fun. With that completely failed attempt, I had one more idea. I found a spare master cylinder cap at the auto parts store, and I was thinking maybe I could modify it and make my own adapter. First, I drilled the proper size hole for the fitting from the bleeder kit, then smoothed off the lettering to make sure I got a good seal. Next, I made my own gasket using a sheet of rubber I still had from a past project, and gooped it in using some gasket maker for good measure and to plug up these vent galleys. I was feeling pretty good about my chances. This seems like it should work. So after letting that dry, I hooked up the air hose and got ready to test whether this would hold pressure without any fluid. It seemed to fit nice and tight on the master cylinder, so my hopes were high. However, as soon as I hooked it up to the tire, I could hear air leaking around the cap. At this point, since I had basically exhausted all options, I decided just to see what would happen if I put some fluid in. For a couple seconds it seemed okay, until the fluid got to the top. Is it holding? Nope.
Oh! Holy crap. Okay, so all of my attempts to make my own adapter cap for this master cylinder have failed miserably. So this is pretty convenient. Should have just asked a friend to help pump the pedal. But now I'm too far invested in this. I want to see this concept actually work. So I ordered the universal cap. We'll see if that actually seals.
What I'm referring to is this multi-purpose cap sold by Gunson for an extra $30 to try to make up for their lack of adapters.
It might be worth it because my Miata also has a different size cap than what comes in the kit. So if it seals up and is a viable concept, then it could be really useful. I still want to believe, but so far, fail. I have an update. I went ahead and bled the brakes the normal way on the Opel just so I could actually drive it. But in the meantime, why don't we try this kit out on my Volvo? Because it actually has a master cylinder cap that the kit has an adapter for. So best case scenario, when you have the right adapter, does this actually work? Let's see.
While I don't necessarily need to bleed the brakes on the Volvo, it's probably not a bad idea to flush out the dirty old fluid anyway.
So look at that, it actually fits. First, I'm just gonna pressure test this with air. No sense in leaking fluid everywhere like last time.
Of course, I had to inflate the tire again.
Okay, moment of truth. Will it seal? Oh, I think so. Yeah, that's sealed. Ha ha ha. So right now there's about 16 PSI going through this system. For a second, I heard a slight hissing from this cap. It wasn't tight, so I tightened it, but nothing hissing anywhere. So it's totally sealed. So let's go ahead and try this. I'm gonna put some fluid in here, and I might pre-drain some of this dirty fluid out because there's no point in pushing it through the whole system. Put some fresh fluid in and try to bleed these brakes.
I pumped out most of the old dirty fluid using an old soap dispenser. Just remember to safely dispose of old brake fluid. I just dump it into my oil container and I'll take it to the auto parts store to dispose of later.
Okay, car's up in the air. I got both rear wheels off and I have my catch bottle ready on the rear right. Always want to start from the furthest point from the master cylinder. This is my ingenious non-tip over device. By the way, the Eezibleed kit doesn't come with a catch bottle. This was from an older cheap kit from Harbor Freight. Anyways, hose is already hooked up and wrench is ready to go. Let's go up front. Poured some fluid into the bottle. You at least want to be over that line. Tighten that cap so it should be secure. I've got 20 PSI in the tire. All I have to do now is hook up the air line, hope it doesn't leak, and then I can start bleeding. Okay, saw the fluid go in. I don't see anything leaking. Probably gonna need to refill this pretty quickly though. Okay, I just put more fluid in. Let's hook it up again. Okay, we're pressurized. Okay, let's see what happens. There it comes. Slowly. Let me stop there and see how we're doing up front. Well, it doesn't look like we've used a terrible amount of fluid even for how long I had that open. So looks like you can still do the rear left, and it seems like there's still a good amount of pressure in the tire. So pretty good. Let's do the rear left. No bubbles, it's starting to look cleaner. Nice. Now that this is actually working, it's pretty handy. So a quick look at what it's taken to do the rear brakes. It looks like I need to put more fluid in. It was, I don't know, up here-ish, and now it's down here. And as far as tire pressure, I hooked up my inflator again just to see where it's at. And it's still at 17.5. So even with this tiny little 13-inch tire, we only used about 2.5 psi of it. So that's pretty good. This lasts a good while. So should be able to do the whole car no problem without having to reinflate that. So that helps a lot. I'm going to put some more fluid in here and do the fronts.
I have to say, it's really nice being able to use this kit the way it's intended. It works really well. I just wish I could use it on all my cars.
What do we got? 10 psi. Wow, so we only used half of the pressure. That's pretty good. The one awkward thing about this is that it will leave your master cylinder completely brimmed to the very tip top. So I might have to like squeeze some of this excess out so it's not all the way to the brim like that, but hey, you know, you got enough brake fluid. Well, this actually turned out to work pretty well on the Volvo when you actually have a cap that fits. Made the bleeding process pretty easy. And instead of having somebody pump the pedal where you have to stop and start, you just have constant pressure to push all the old fluid out and air bubbles. So it's pretty good. But what we still have to figure out is, can I do the Opel with that universal cap that they sell? So even though I already bled it with a friend, I'm still going to pressure test that cap and see if it would actually work. And that should be the most definitive video ever on the Gunson Eezibleed.
And here it is, all the way from the UK, this multi-purpose cap. Notice how they don't call it a universal cap. Anyway, it's just a big round flat piece with dense foam, which should be able to conform to different sizes of reservoir openings. And it's held in place with this single rubber band with different nubs in it. We'll see if that actually works. I should be able to just plop this on, get it roughly centered, and stretch the rubber band underneath and get it nice and tight. Then I just had to switch out this hose from the Eezibleed kit for an empty one without the little adapter fitting. Then I could hook it up to the adapter and get ready to test it with air only. It became clear immediately that this isn't going to work. Oh, it has potential. I don't think I can get this any tighter with these little rubber bands. Dang. I think the way this cap is designed just isn't strong enough, and it's not held on firmly enough to seal. When you look at this shot, you can see it lift up when I connect the air. Damn. Needless to say, I was not very impressed with this test. Well, this is shit. I don't see any way this will work. What were they thinking? Oh, if I put all my body weight on it. Jeez. Well, maybe it just doesn't like this kind of master cylinder. Let's try it on my 91 Mazda Miata. It's as tight as I can get it. Nope. Wow, that's horrible. This thing is horrible. There's no way. Nope. Nope. Well, crap. By now I'm getting the impression that this multi-purpose cap doesn't really serve any purpose. I briefly made an attempt to rig up a stronger hold-down system, but, well, I can immediately tell this isn't going to work. You can tell that the more force I put on it, the more it's just going to bend and buckle the cap here, so my design isn't perfect, admittedly, but I can already tell this just isn't going to work. Lastly, in a final attempt to find some other saving grace for this thing, I checked to see if any of the adapters would fit my Miata's hydraulic clutch, and unfortunately, no. A big part of why I bought this device was I thought it would be versatile enough to use on at least 3 out of 4 of my cars. Unfortunately, this just isn't the reality.
Alright, I think it's time to call it. I've tried everything I can possibly think of to make that universal cap work. It doesn't work. I don't know if they ever tried it at the factory before selling it to the public. It doesn't even come close to working. Mixed feelings about this because I still like the concept of this for the at-home mechanic that doesn't have a shop or compressed air and you don't always have somebody around to help pump the pedal. The idea is pretty good and everything works except for the interface with the master cylinder. In the case where one of those adapters it comes with does fit, it actually worked great. As you saw in the Volvo, it was perfect and it made it really easy. And to be fair, I do have kind of a weird eclectic fleet of vehicles, but I was hoping I would be able to use this on most of them at least. But it turns out it only works on one. If I did this again, I would either try the Motive kit and actually get the proper adapters for my different vehicles. It looks like that would actually work better than this, albeit more expensive when you buy all the adapters. Or just go back to the two-person method. It's not that bad. And after going through all this, I have a newfound appreciation for keeping it simple. So, hope you got some valuable information out of this. It was kind of a giant waste of time for me, but that's fine. It's content, right? Sure. Anyway, see you in the next video where I'll probably get back to work on this thing, doing some actual useful things to it, hopefully. On today's language butchery, let's try French. Attention, ne pas utiliser une pression supérieure à... What's 20? I can't remember what 20 is, sorry. Tester le système sous pression sans liquide de frein à l'intérieur du réservoir. Nouveau minimum de liquide. My apologies to any French viewers. I tried. Uh-oh. I had it pretty well centered. It's just a piece of shit, that's all. Oh. Warnung, verwenden Sie nicht mehr als 20 PSI Anschlüsse vor dem Einführen der Flüssigkeit drückten. Mindestflüssigkeitspegel. Something like that. Oh. Because the old one was leaking, so it's a good time for someone to turn around in my driveway. That's fine. Warschau Gebrück nicht mehr dan 20 PSI. Zette Profilvindinge onander dok vorn. Uzet muter zovloistop vult. Stupidity. I'm sure that was not even anywhere close. Anyway, let's try it out.